Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Friend, the upcoming Jaw the Dragon. So, the Nintendo Direct a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, one of the interesting things about it is that the Nintendo Switch Online got a Game Boy and Game Boy Advance expansion. Now, this is something that I personally really wanted. This is something that I expected. This is something I'm really happy about. I've actually been spending a lot of time playing old Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. Wario Land 3, Super Mario Land 2, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, like absolutely stellar stuff. I love it. But the thing that really interests me about like this particular announcement is that it does kind of feel like this is the tipping point. It does kind of feel like the narrative that's been prevalent since the service's announcement, since 2017. Actually, was it in 2016? I think it was 2017, yeah. Ever since the service's announcement in 2017, was that the prevailing narrative among YouTubers, among gaming journalists, among analysts, was that like Nintendo Switch Online was a bad deal. They complained about games coming out at a trickle. They complained about like not being able to purchase games. They did all this stuff. They whined, they complained, they stamped their feet. They said everything about the service was wrong, from the price point to the way they released their games, to like the games they chose to release, from like the changes made from the virtual console system. And I knew right away that it wasn't true. It reminded me a lot of how like the Nintendo Direct system was derided by journalists initially, because it was Nintendo knowing that E3 was on its last legs and like taking steps to move away from the show. Like setting up their own platform that was like unencumbered by game journalists. Like no longer would gamers have to like wait for like a game journalist to like cover a Nintendo product. Like they were just delivering that stuff directly to you. And over the past 10 years, that's become like the default as to how you handle your gaming news announcements. And as a result of that, like game journalists cannot influence people's opinions on Nintendo games as thoroughly as they used to. And it's been something that's been ragging on them for years. They hate that. And I think Nintendo Switch Online is the same way, honestly. It's interesting to kind of see that a lot of games that come to this service are games that were like ripped on when they first came out. You of course have like notable examples like Majora's Mask. You have like Pilot Wings, the original N64. You have stuff like Wario Land 3, which has been kind of become obscure. Super Mario Land 3, Super Mario Land 2, excuse me. You have all these games, right? That for whatever reason were not available on widely to a whole lot of people. And now you have them on one platform through one subscription service. And game journalists YouTubers have spent the past couple of years trying to convince you that this was a bad deal. Like the rallying cry for them for the past couple of years has been like oh, you can just emulate that. You can just pirate it and you can get the same experience. But I think with the advent of Game Boy Advance, that is no longer true, because there are aspects of the Game Boy Advance that cannot be emulated properly. Specifically, like the connectivity with like Pokemon games, multiplayer. You have like WarioWare Twisted. You have like motion sensing technology for games like Mario Galaxy and stuff like that. You have like online features. You have all these things that just make emulation a complete chore. And because like Nintendo Switch Online is under one umbrella, because it's one service, first of all, like everyone who's regularly playing these games is generally doing it on the service. And over time, as that service has become more and more popular, more and more people are playing their older games on it. And because this is fully featured, and because it has everything that you could possibly want from a service like this, more and more people are starting to wake up to the fact that like the agenda being shoved in their face before it was even available, that like, oh, this service, it's a bad deal. Don't pay for Nintendo Switch Online. It was never actually true. It was ridiculous. It was like it was a farce. It was like an attempt at like downplaying something that would have been very, very popular among a lot of people. I think that like the vast majority of the gaming population don't actually know just what's available on Nintendo Switch Online. Just how many great games are available for there right now. Earthbound is a good example. How many people have actually, taken the time to play that? You have you have stuff like that on there that a lot of people would love to play, but aren't really given the opportunity to. And with the Game Boy, with the Game Boy line being available, with the implication being that trading will be possible, and that there'll be social elements, and you'll be able to take the Switch out in public and stuff like that. It's becoming more and more clear that the Nintendo Switch Online service is not only better than any other video game subscription service out there, it's also better than piracy and emulation. And that is the grim reality that pirates are beginning to comprehend. They are beginning to deal with the fact that are a there is a significant portion of the population that has no interest in emulating games, that has no interest in being a pirate, that has no interest in being a criminal, who are discovering games like Super Mario Land 2 and Wario Land 3 for the first time ever, because these aren't games that people just go out and download. In order to pirate a game, you actually have to seek it out and play it. But with the way the Nintendo Switch Online service works, where you can just boot it up and see what they have available, you can actually see these games. You can actually play these games immediately. You can experience them at your own pace. And if you're like me and actually have been playing through all these games on the service, you'll realize that it takes a very, very long time for anyone to go through everything on that list. I've mostly been focusing on Nintendo exclusive stuff and some classics and stuff like that, but there are plenty of games on NSO I have not played, particularly on the NES. But ordinary people, how many people do you know who's played all three Donkey Kong Country games? How many people do you know who have been able to track down old copies of Mario Kart 64? How many people do you know GoldenEye? GoldenEye I think, has been a major draw to Nintendo Switch Online. And emulators are in denial about this. They're shaking and quivering in their boots, but more and more Nintendo Switch Online is becoming the preferred way of playing these old games rather than piracy, rather than emulation. And it's only going to get worse from here. I can guarantee that. 10, 20 years from now, piracy will be completely cracked down on. No one will be pirating games because it won't be allowed, and everyone will be playing their old games on Nintendo Switch Online. I cannot wait to be playing PlayStation 1 games through the PlayStation 1 Nintendo Switch Online app. That is going to be a glorious day indeed.